Okay, hello and welcome back to Errant Kingdom. We have 2 more weeks of this. Oh no! This week we are playing through chapter 5 of the Night Route. In the previous chapter, we were snatched away by one of the gods of Novus, not the patron god Novus, no, my apologies, one of the other gods of Novus's pantheon, not the patron god, Novus. Instead, the knight was kidnapped, I guess, for want of a better word, by the Knydros. Okay. By Knydros, the pantheon's goddess of justice and fair combat. The ambassador was kidnapped by Telenios, the divine defender of the homeland. No. My brain. Okay. Telenios is the goddess of justice. Knydros is the goddess of fair combat. Novus is the divine defender of the homeland. There we go. And the nomad was taken by Ungras, basically the god of death. And that's who the assassins favor for obvious reasons. So, taken by Knydros, and then our little meeting was crashed by Novus, just as the meeting between the ambassador and Telenios was. And so Knydros, just like Telenios, told the knight to think of someone that makes them feel safe. And the knight thought of Eric. And so they had a touch moment, they kissed, and then it ended with Eric taking the knight back into his cabin for the rest of the night. So we're going to pick up with Ehab the morning after. This is going to be slightly shorter. I registered the sound of chirping birds first, and how there's a strangely loud amount of them. No crows either. The factors are squawk so loud it draws out even the roosters. Wait. I open my eyes. This is not my room. Nope. No, it ain't. The cabin is much smaller and much cozier for it, made warm just with the sunlight pooling in through the windows. There are embers in the fireplace at the other end of the room, like it's just recently gone out. For a moment, paralyzed in confusion. Where am I? What happened? How did I end up here? Did I miss morning drills? Typical night. Then it registers to me that someone is snoring softly, and no one is there for our sleep. As I look, however, he finds him asleep and cracks open an eye. I didn't mean to wake you. Sunlight paints gold in Eric's hair and streaks on his cheekbones. My chest clenches tightly, painfully. It feels too much just to see him like this, half drowsy so. Too much of what, I don't know, nor do I know whether I feel like bursting or smiling or kissing him. He makes a decision for me, thankfully. Eric stretches, grunts, and sits up, rubbing the back of his neck and pressing his 6 fingers in his messy bun. I sit frozen, watching him, waiting for... I don't know what I'm waiting for exactly. My heart is rabbiting too fast. I can barely think. You're not going to start running, are you? Eric's shoulders tense, but he laughs, just a little ruefully. I considered it. So, this is kind of cool. I do like to watch you go. Yeah, he's got a gorgeous body from all angles. Stay with me. And for people who don't know, these colors are for the ace flag. So this is given an opportunity for people who don't like actually playing sex games to enjoy something a little more romantic. But it's not just let's watch you go. And then of course the red heart is the full on romance. But I like that this is an option. And not many novels have that. I mean, and when the night comes, you had a similar choice. You could sleep with your significant other, or you could just sleep, actually sleep with them. You could go the very sexy route, or just the sweet, cuddly route. I'm going with this route. And leave me on your bed like this. Not to say it's not a very comfortable bed. The roughness of the blankets and the bed sheets aside, but still. Eric gives me a wry look, but much to my relief, the tension in his shoulders seems to ease. I was going to let you sleep in a little more, considering the circumstances. I stare him down, trying my hardest to convey exactly what I want, and what I think he wants, too. Definitely, if those amber eyes darken as they trail over my form is any indication. Yep. Yeah. Says my name like he's scolding me. I smile. You wouldn't make me beg after all that I've been through, would you? His cheeks flushed, the tip of his ears from the pink, the tip of his, the tips of his ears too, and the pink complements his sun-kissed skin wonderfully. I tentatively reach out and place my hand on top of his, brushing my thumb over his scarred knuckle. He shudders. I wouldn't, no. I just want to be sure, I suppose, that you want this. There's a knot at his brow that I want to brush away with my lips, to take away whatever worries plague him with the tenderness he deserves. And so I lean in and do just that. I let my lips linger there, his expression softening and his broad hands fall to my hips to steady me where I kneel. It feels good to have him hold me like this, but I want more, if he'll have me. You want this. Want you, Eric. He exhales, blinks, and then he's surging close to capture my lips in a desperate kiss. I lean into it with everything I have, pushing my hands into his pretty hair, moving close so we're seamed as tight as we can get. He makes a quiet, dreamy little noise against my mouth, and I pull back to grin at him accusingly. So we're on the same page then, I suspect? I would say so, yes. Where do you want me? My heart skips a beat. So this is cool. You get to pick if you let him take the lead or you take the lead. And it's sweet either way, but I tug on the hem of his shirt and he lifts his arms willingly, assisting me with its removal. His leather hair tie gets caught as the fabric slides over his head, and the side of his golden hair cascading over his shoulders as he falls back against the pillows is breathtaking. You get that image regardless of which route you romance him. You gorgeous man. Anyone told you so? Eric's breath pitches deliciously, and I haven't even gotten started. I do so now, claiming his lips in a heated kiss, dragging my hands down his chest, feeling the heat of his skin, the soft hair there, and his thundering heartbeat. I like it when you tell me. Then I'll tell you some more. He's so warm beneath me, the sheets pushed aside along with whatever remains of our clothes, and the gentle way in which he handles me is a revelation. His hands are rough but kind, his touch reverent, and it doesn't take long to figure out all the ways he likes to be picked apart. Then, lovely tea time later, a warm eternity later, Eric stirs. You need to get back? Yes, probably. I have drills to run, and probably at least one meeting to attend with the other nights. something about organizing events for our restless squires before they start to beat each other with sticks outside of a dueling ring. The task that would have normally at least amused me, but now the simple thought of returning to Novus, to that castle, fills me with a stomach-turning dread. I squirm away from Eric and sit up slowly, trying to get it under control. He stays close, rubbing my arm soothingly, and I can't find the words to tell him how much I appreciate it. I mean it, Ehud. You have to get back. There are ways to get you out of here. No, I can't. I can't run, not after what happened. I meet his eyes, and Eric's lips thin. I think he understands. Only the guilty runs. Well, Eric didn't, and that hardly stopped them from deciding his guilt, but more than my own name rides on my presence. I can shame myself, but to tarnish my homeland's reputation is an unimaginably painful thought. Yeah. For some reason, the ambassador doesn't run. There's more at stake than their personal lives, their personal honor. The honor of their homeland is at stake as well. I certainly wonder what the tittering nobles of His Majesty's Sunlight Court would think about this, nobles and fairy alike. It almost makes me laugh. I can't quite manage the mirth. I'm going to be fine. No matter what, I'm so deaf, sort of, diplomatic immunity, and all that. If you were truly touched by Canidros. At his words, heat flares out on my back. It doesn't hurt, it's just almost uncomfortably warm, and I clutch at my shoulder instinctively. I have had a really bad sunburn. I can't imagine what kind of pain the Knight Ambassador and Nomad went through. Eric follows my hand and grudgingly inclines his head. And realistically, I don't think there's much they dare do to you. We here in Errant led the gods, too much in my opinion. More accurately, we led the idea of them. Something that can be as visible as a sigil on your back weighs more in that court than anything even your homeland can send. Still, I takes a deep breath and gently takes my chin and turns my head to face him. His eyes are dark. I don't want to send you back to that damn castle. I don't know what exactly they will do to you. Trust me, I don't want to go back. Eric leans in to kiss me. That is a wonderful distraction. Then my stomach rumbles. Breakfast? Breakfast. That's me. I always need to eat first thing in the morning. I can't put it off for too long. I need at least something to nibble on. With mutual reluctance, we get out of Eric's bed, which, despite his frugal appearance, seems to be quite sturdy, all things considered. I love that. Well, I admire the clearly homemade imperfections in the blankets, which have a distinctively roux-like feel to the patterns. Eric rummages the cabinets. He gets food ready with a military man's ruthless precision. Nothing fancy, hard cheese, dried meat, bread that I have to soak in honeyed milk for soften before I bite if I want to keep my teeth. Fresh fruits that are out of season, too, an expensive treat not many can afford. Surely not all of it is from a mercenary's pay. Not if Eric wants to remain anonymous enough not to draw the crown's ire. And I'm sure he doesn't, which means these are gifts. Do Ray and Rue check in on you often? Often enough. He sighs. I know they worry about me. Not that you can catch Raiden dead in the act of admitting it, but when you start appearing at your friend's doorstep, why is he spiraling every time? Well, it sends a message. Eric looks his mug of milk contemplatively and smirks. I should tell them more often how much I appreciate them. At least I will tell Rue. Don't want to scare that skittish assassin off. What? The cheeky Raiden, afraid of a little feelings? Aren't we all? I reach up and trace the edge of his subtle jaw, scratching into his beard, then follow the line of his strong neck to his shoulder. Eric doesn't look at me, but allows this with a slight smile. The mortification is well worth the reward, and more. Yes. It's always been. I've forgotten that. Eric. Allow me to remind you? Eric's eyes are soft, wistful. I love the reminder. curl a strand of his hair around my fingers and kiss it. He had kissed my hand so tenderly. Then I let go and kiss him again on the cheek, and the thrill that runs through me when he leans into my tender administrations was sent Maddox into palpitations. Thinking about Mads, however, means inevitably remembering that I have somewhere to be. Reluctantly, I go back to the food, and Eric lets me eat in companionable silence. He wraps up his meal just as fast, though if not faster. He helps me back into my armor, and his hands moving so efficiently over the buckles. I know he's had a lifetime of doing this when he was still a knight, and then dresses for himself as well, sword included. Where are you going? I see you to time. Eric, it's still early out. Eric gives me a wry look. You think I could sleep with you on my mind? That's sweet. This is why I like him. He has that softness inside that you get to see. Besides, someone is going to be very happy to have taken care of a demon for them. Oh yes, the demon from last night. The demon that they killed right before the night got whisked away. I try not to shudder. Even with the sunlight pouring down on me as we step out of Eric's cabin, the memory of that thing alone seems to chill the air itself. Is demons common in Errantus? Will it pass this into manifesting curses or a particular kind of magic on a rise? Common enough for me to make a comfortable living banishing them. And you've been doing this since, I don't want to say it, since your banishment. But from the dry smile Eric gives me, he understands. Yes, but I admit that after they sent me away, there were times I wished they'd gone with life imprisonment rather than this. Banished, with no answers for what happened or why. For a time I hated the gods. How could they let it happen if they were just? Or were they ever with us at all? Recall what Canadris had said. Then, as though she was here again, whispering in my ear. Words and the sentiment are indistinct, but not their sincerity. The gods' faith in the people of this land, the corruption that manifests from love. If your name is cleared, will you go back? It won't happen. Don't admitting that they were wrong after they've already decided on a course? That will destroy the image they've spent the blood of my fellows and their soldiers on. Novus's judgment is swift, cold, and final, as an executioner's blade. The biting bitterness in his tone makes me not want to question him anymore. I wonder if there's something else there as well. I ache to tell him the whole truth of what Canadris seeks to thwart and how it might sunder this very kingdom. Yet even contemplating it, therefore permitting the idea of realism, leaves me cold and frightened. I don't even want to think about how I've ended up in the middle of a divine squabble. Between gods, not even my own. Eric takes my hand as we approach the city gate, startling me out of my turning thoughts. You should head in first, and make sure to look casual. I will see you later. Good plan. He squeezes my hand. Do nothing that will endanger yourself, and if you really do need to get out of there, try to get the word out. I'll do whatever I can. Yes, I'll shout if I need help. Maybe blink twice? Eric snorts, pushes me into a hut, then reluctantly lets me go. I could have stayed there forever. I want to, but the gates loom, and I see caravans down the road, heading close. I have to go, without knowing if I can ever come back. The pain on Eric's face, reflecting the same, is no comfort. But I go. So then this gets into the standard night story, but pretty much the same for every night, with some deviation. Once I return to the house, it's a while before I feel ready to face the day, and very seemingly so by my own standards. Gratefully, the halls are quiet when I finally vacate my room. Aside from the odd sentry that passes me without comment, everything seems peaceful. If anything, it feels almost too idyllic. Too still. With every step I take away from my quarters, the niggling fear that any minute now someone's going to jump out and march me off to the dungeons for communing with the goddess becomes sillier. And maybe it is. I already know how much this country reveres the pantheon, Canadris most of all. Nor can a divine favor be falsified. Nor does anyone actually know about the encounter. Surely, I'm being paranoid. As I look at you, I see a flash of red. I turn just in time to catch Maddox by the shoulders before he walks straight into a wall. Ehab! Well now, lad, where are you off to that you're running for your life? Maddox flushes red. He opens and closes his mouth in that way when he can think of no defense for himself, then sighs and rubs at his face. I clasp his shoulder and feel for a moment a whirlwind of both relief and guilt. I haven't considered if something might happen to him. It's fine. Everything's fine. Well, for us right now anyway. Cedric was just... he gave me a scare. Oh? What exactly did he do? Protective Knight coming to the floor. No, nothing like that. He's not like that. Knight Ehab, I promise. I ran into him a few minutes ago, and he looked ready to kill somebody, so I got worried. Oh, God, no. Cedric is the attending knight for our ambassador. What if something has happened to his charge? I have no idea what role I would actually play if something does go wrong with the official ambassador, but just the thought makes me cold. Yeah, Cedric's upset because the ambassador went missing on his watch. But Maddox is already shaking his head. Nothing happened to his charge, at least nothing that was fatal. Something made Cedric nervous, though, and furious besides. Makes you nervous, is all. He's never one for... He trails off and passes a hand over his mouth and looks away. I understand. Instinctively, nervously, I look around the house as well. We're still alone, but as Maja has proven, there's no such thing as truly alone in these walls. Oh, yes. Unless your privacy is guaranteed by one of the people who make sure that there's no privacy, of course. I don't think this conversation counts for that. It galls me, this surveillance. I've tried to tell myself that it is only for security matters before, and with the attempt on the Count's life, I could expect nothing less. But now I'm not sure. If something did happen, then it's only a matter of time before we hear about it. Until then, try to stay calm. God knows enough people are up in a stir in this castle. Very true. Me included, but he doesn't need to know that. Yes, you're right. Speaking of, you look like hell if you would pardon my manners in saying so. That actually surprises me. I haven't checked my reflection before leaving my room, but I don't feel physically ill or anything. It doesn't cross my mind that I might look unwell. How bad is it? Surely you're exaggerating. You look queasy. You sure you're not projecting? Sure you're not the one who feels queasy? Maddox pouts. Right. Sorry. I might take it easy today. I think I might have eaten something not so good for my health yesterday. Where were you, anyway? You must have gotten back pretty late, since I didn't see you at all the last time I went to check on you. Well, after curfew, even. Oh, I went. Right. Maddox likes to glance in on me whenever he's feeling uneasy, which seems to be quite a lot lately. I was out making friends. In the town? Of course. Don't you have duties and chores today, young squire? A handsome knight about your age to bother, now that we're sure nothing fatal happened to his liege? In other words, let's just deflect. Let's redirect your attention and concern. And I mean, technically, the knight Ahab wasn't lying. They were making friends. Please, we're not. His eyes sharply and pinches the bridge of his nose. For an instant, he impresses upon me the blonde image of an exasperated maid. I clasp his shoulder, then ruffle his hair. Everything will be well. It has to be, if not for my sake, then for his. It's fine, Mads. I promise you solemnly I will do nothing to induce nausea. Maddox snorts, but steps away with a salute. He can't hide the concern in his eyes, but at least he seems willing to let me go. That says something. If he hasn't, he would have escorted me right back to my quarters. One more thing before you go. Have you seen Livia? I believe the Knight Commander is taking a stroll around the gardens. Who knows for how long, though. I'd best catch her then. I'll see you later. And whatever they tell you, Maddox, don't shoulder more trials than absolutely necessary. You are my squire, not their errand boy. Of course. He's gone in a flash. I watched the red of his hair retreat from view, then shake my head. I still have a report to make. Livia isn't anywhere near the chapel, thankfully. I see her turn back at the gazebo, her raven on her arm. At the sound of my footsteps, she turns. There's a moment where she seems almost surprised to see me. I wonder if I've interrupted a private moment. Before guilt can set in, though, Livia releases her breath and rolls her shoulder. The raven takes flight, vanishing into the sky with a loud squawk. Livia stares after him, wrinkling her nose. He is getting spoiled. You have to speak to that squire of yours, Knight Kadir. I believe he's been sneaking Tazini treats. Clever things should have their intelligence respected, or else they'll make a habit of taking advantage of those who assume otherwise. Livia slowly turns her full body to face me, her movement measured and not quite relaxed, and I can't help tensing a little. I'm not out here in my usual armor and livery. I'm basically declaring to have the day off. After all, some other business aside. Yet her presence and those sharp eyes alone compel me to stand straighter. Are you referring to me, Commander? I don't take you for the type to play dumb to get something. Livia raises her eyebrow and looks me over. I'm just starting to hate her scrutiny when her eyebrows suddenly draw together in obvious concern instead. You don't look well, Ehab. Is everything all right? Yes, of course. Livia looks at me again, patiently. Oh, right. I've come here to tell her exactly the opposite. As in, I can stand and walk fairly well, I think, but I made some bad decisions last night. Think it'd be wiser for me to take a step back for the day? Of course. I blink. Thank you, but that's it? Of course. Your absence will be noted, but I doubt it will be dwelled on. At least I'll ensure that no one decides to gossip. Livia frowns then and glances away. I follow her gaze of instinctive curiosity, then feel a chill as I realize she's looking at the chapel. Suddenly I wonder if she can tell somehow something about what happened to me last night. She can't, but someone else can. Canadros mentioned that she is her champion, didn't she? It's somewhere in there, along with the rest of the hazy memories that are at the same time somehow stark in contrast. What do you think about the gods, Livia? The words are out of my mouth before I can control myself. Livia looks surprised at the question, but something else, much darker, quickly replaces it. She turns away from me and leans on the gazebo's railing. I can't help but worry if I've touched on a sensitive topic. I'm not an atheist, if that's what you mean. How can I be, growing up under the shadow of our revered Novus? Errant is a land steeped in the blood of its gods. That was what the priest taught me long ago. Words they used for every young student under their care, of course, and when I was younger, I was inclined to think they were just trying to scare us. Now I'm not so sure. At the same time, I don't think just because they're there that it should mean gods need to meddle in our affairs. Just as I don't go and meddle with the city's guard captain, I trust that she handles her duty well, as I handle mine. Do gods trust mortals the same? Nope. But I think this helps explain why Canadros didn't call Livia instead. Because Livia would have refused. Hard to think so, though, considering how many clerics are chosen every year. The marks of the divine blazing on their skin. They looked happy to have been called to some higher purpose, and if in serving it they find their peace, and I have no objection. Still, those marks, they always look awfully like brands to me. Another reason that Livia wasn't picked by Canadros. Aside from the fact that Livia is off to Nova Errant is born. The clerics who are truly chosen by the gods, then? Yes, no less true than your warlocks get picked and marked by their fairy patrons. Livia snorts and straightens, shaking her head. Look at me, spouting borderline heresy. Any moment now, a priest will spring out of a bush to reprimand me. She glares at the nearby bushes, fingers tapping her shoulder, as though daring this magic to do just that. When no such thing happens, however, Livia sighs again and pinches the bridge of her nose. That's the second time she's done that. How I feel about gods is I could probably bore you to tears for an evening talking about it. And offering no constructive opinion at that, you should ask Maja if you're after something more useful. She will always be glad to share her knowledge with the visitor, though she's no religious person herself. The set of Livia's chin and the swim gathering over her face tells me I should probably leave her alone. For a moment, I'm worried that I have left her more upset than if I haven't asked, but it doesn't feel right pushing the topic. Where's Maja now? Shouldn't you go back and lay down and be alone with my thoughts? Livia laughs then, a rough barking sound that can barely count as such, but it's still a laugh. Obviously, if you romance Livia as a knight, this conversation goes slightly differently. But I'm kind of weary of the whole commander-subordinate thing. I mean, we kind of get that in When the Night Comes with August and the Hunter. But that's not as rigid, I think, as this is. I mean, at least in When the Night Comes, we have the example of Harry and James. But in Errant Kingdom, we don't, because Eric and Maja weren't part of the same command structure, I guess you could say. Because Eric was part of the military and Maja was part of their magic team, whatever, ambassador, whatever you want to call it. So they didn't have to worry about that sort of thing. But still, there's a part of me that's curious as hell. So I went ahead and played it, and it's actually kind of sweet. I mean, now I want to go back and replay that part, but we will set that aside for now. For Atrium, probably, I'll tell you how to get there. And don't worry about interrupting her work. Maja usually likes interruptions, not that I can tell why. Thank you for listening to me anyway. Your question isn't one most people bother to ask. And thank you for speaking candidly. Livia smiles. Yeah, that's Livia and Eric. You can tell that Eric had a big impact on Livia as she grew up. So they have some similarities. So I think the reasons for those similarities are very different. So with Livia, she has that tough exterior because she feels like she has to prove that she's worthy of being Eric's successor, even at such a young age. But underneath that, she is still kind and soft to some extent. She can still be tough as nails, even when she's not wearing her armor. And Eric has that mellow aspect to him. You know, he lets down his guard around certain people, and with his romance, you see that happening with your character, regardless of which one you play. And Livia, as we're going to see next week, something similar happens when she's being romanced. But one thing that I found so pleasing, so nice about this developer team is they've stated that Rue is Ace and Livia is Debbie. So asexual, you don't feel sexual attraction. That's not to say you don't want sex. That's not what that means at all. It just means you don't feel sexual desire. And it's a whole spectrum. And so Rue and Livia are both on the spectrum. Livia is what's called demisexual. When she gets to know a person, when she feels comfortable with them, then she will start to feel that attraction to them and want to take things further. But in a case like that, you would need to take it at their pace, not your pace. So you'd have to be very patient and be willing to wait until they're ready to take that step. I mean, no matter what the relationship is, both parties need to be ready to take that step in order for it to work. Because if one party pressures the other into it, well, there's a word for that. But we're not going to get into that. Let's get back to the story. Maja's Atrium looks like the type of place young students of magic would beg their teachers to have a field trip here every year. I'm not seeing magic, and I would love to visit this place. I mean, look at all the plants, and she's got a little cauldron and books, lots of books. I'm a book nerd, so just the fact that she has all these books, and this probably isn't the full extent of her collection. And then up on the ceiling, there's there's stars and constellations painted on it, and I kind of like the idea that it's like those glow in the dark stars that you can stick on your ceiling, so that you have a night sky above you. So they glow in the dark when you turn off your light, and so you can stare up at those as you go to sleep. So it's like sleeping in the night sky, even though you're really not. The doors have swung open as soon as I'm in front of them, and so I've taken it as an invitation to come inside. I marvel a little at all the sparkly instruments about the room. Oh, and look, there's a globe, and of course lots of bottles, and a mirror, and of course this is familiar. This is this is a symbol of Novus. I keep getting Novus and Nova mixed up today. I don't know why. Like what you see? A few steps away, Masha is smiling. The open book in her hand shudders and sparks like it can hear what she's saying. She's absolutely breathtakingly magical. Sorry for the messy hab. I wasn't expecting visitors. Yes, I'm sorry. I should have knocked after all. Yes, I'm sure people recognize this image. No. Those doors are intended to keep out people I don't want to see. That you are in here means you're not an interruption. She waves her hand and the book she's been reading flies up, flips shut, and then flies off to join its friends in a nearby pile. Yes, I'm sorry. I should have knocked after all. Okay. Yeah, this is a repeat. She. Okay, that. Already did that. As a matter of fact, I should probably have gone looking for you. Oh boy. I don't know if the developers meant that, but one of the catchphrases in the TV show Quantum Leap is Sam Beckett says, "Oh boy," each time he finds himself in a new body. Yes, I'm sorry, I wasn't around last night. I was preoccupied. Masha's mouth twitches, not a downward twitch, and if anything, she looks like she's about to laugh. But it's no trouble, my friend. Your time is your own. Does she know? Okay, this icon here is the it's saying this, you should pick this option if you want to pursue a poly romance with Marsha and Eric. If you only want to romance Eric, then you pick the she's right option. So we're going for the poly route, so we're going to pick this one. I was with Eric, actually. A complicated emotion passes through Marsha's face. It's there and gone, quick enough that I can't quite register it, but just as quickly it settles into a sad curve of her mouth. That's better than I could have hoped for. I can be assured at least you were safe. There's no man more capable in the city than Eric. He would have scoffed at that. Oh, I'm sure he would have, or blushed, and mumbled under his breath that he had to shake it out of him. And how did you shake him? He's built like a boulder. Dad, I mean, you have at least his a trained knight in their own right. Marsha is, I won't say she's weaker, but physical strength is not a specialty. There's always a trick or three to things like that. You should show me sometime. Marsha blinks. Then she closes her eyes and sighs softly. She twirls the end of her braid until her finger looks down at it. You're bold where he is not. I've always loved this most about you. What? My heart quickens. Does this mean? Answer me only this then, Ehab. You aren't toying with him and I both? No, never. And you truly think this can work? I think that it can, and I know he misses you. It doesn't have to end like this, Masha. You don't have to walk away and see us be happy without you there. Oh, if he could ever forgive me. He's never blamed you. But that's something he should tell you himself, I think, if you would give us a chance. Masha takes a long, deep breath and then sighs. How could I not? She takes a step closer to me, slowly, with careful hands, as on smoke or glass, or the fragile pieces of a love she hasn't dared to remember for years. Masha touches my face. For a moment we only look at each other, seek out each other's resolve, perhaps, and also to look, to see. Then Masha smiles, much more relaxed. She leans up and kisses me on the corner of my mouth. Thank you, by the way, for looking after him. He was managing fine, actually. I was the one who botched his routine a little. Good, that man needs a little excitement now and again. So I'm sure you can probably do with less. With fingertips glowing, Masha lifts her hand. Before I can ask her what exactly she's doing, I feel a twinge of something across my shoulder blades. Not pain exactly, but something. As I clutch at my shoulder in reflex, Masha lowers her hand. Interesting. Did you just shake me down the mage's way? Not quite. I was just confirming something we already know. Does anything in this castle escape your notice? I always feel like some things do. The bestowing of a blessing, however, I do tend to have an eye for when it happens. Don't tell the priests now. They'll get jealous. They think knowing such things is the province of true worshippers only. I roll my shoulders, trying not to feel too uneasy. So anything I should know? I'm not going to get into trouble for this, am I? Who would dare? Wait, that's neither Masha nor me, huh? Who? What? The hinges on those doors are well oiled. I haven't even heard Lucius come in. Excuse me. Yet we turn, and there they are. Here they are, and there they go. Sorry, that's a reference to something else entirely. Lucius' smirk remains immovable. Upon seeing me looking, however, the expression softens to a more enticing smile. They incline their head. Of all the things one can trust me with, secrets are things I keep most closely. I can vouch for them on that, if little else. All right, there's a story to go with this, if you'll bear with me. It takes surprisingly little time to tell it, considering how much the entire tale's weighed on my mind. Masha and Lucian listen intently, almost to the point of making me uncomfortable, but mercifully they don't seem upset or worried. There's a moment of silence after I'm finished. Lucian rubs her chin thoughtfully, while Masha nods at her lips. That's how do I put this? Mortifying. Well, yes, most certainly. I was going to say intriguing. For what it's worth, I should probably have stayed home last night. If it's meant to be, I don't think it would have made a difference. Yeah, I mean, I blanked on the nomad's name. The nomad stayed home, and I still got pulled away. So, and even if the nomad did go with Raiden to go skinny dipping and all that, still would have gotten pulled away. So, if the guys want an audience with you, they will damn well grab you wherever you are. I've initially dismissed this cult as some local troublemakers. That was my error, one I intend to rectify immediately. And what will we do in the meantime with Ehab? We can't expect this truth to go unknown or unseen. Sooner or later, someone will find one. Is it that much of a problem? Surely they're not going to string me up for execution. God, could you imagine? That aegis on your back alone would drive the whole fleet of Canidras to defend you, only out of principle. At the same time, that's precisely the problem. And you're not the only foreigner mysteriously chosen. Nope. What? There is at least one more, maybe more than that. Second option. If the gods truly want to put this plan of theirs into motion, or rather halt, she cuts herself off and sighs in frustration. I cannot lie to their majesty. However, I can maintain discretion out of concern for your safety. I can assist with that. There we go. Masha pinches the bridge of her nose like she's stalling a migraine. I shift from foot to foot, trying to tell the guilt welling up inside me that it's irrational. After all, I've had precisely no say in this. All right, I have preparations to make. Away with you both now. Oh, and Ehab, what you mind staying away from the castle first, though? Maybe at least a few hours? Sure. That's probably for the best anyway. Masha smiles, then she's us out. Losing myself to the subdued din of a marketplace full of oblivious onlookers has its own comforts. It's only another day for Novus's people, and without my colors, I'm nobody to them. Merchants jostle their way up and down the streets, nearly running me over at some point. Now, where would I find Eric? I'm tempted to just go straight for his cabin, but that's like the criminal return to the crime scene, isn't it? Even if Maja expressly said I haven't done anything wrong. A hand closes around my arm. I almost go for my sword, but the flash of a familiar grin under a brown hood makes me pause. Would it kill you not to scare me like that? Raiden shrugs unrepentantly, but does let me go. He inclines his head to the side and moves away, and after a moment of consideration, I reluctantly follow him. What can he do to me that's worse than what's already happening right now? Precisely. We stop on the side of the road, free from the flow of traffic, and Raiden rolls his shoulders, eyeing the crowd around us lazily. Looking for your friends? Yeah, kind of. Don't worry, we're totally safe here. Something got the guild distracted. Hopefully it's not you. Okay. Either response is good, so yeah, we toss the dice here. So, two options. I have a D4. Odd number, laugh nervously, even number, stare. It's a 1, so laugh nervously. I have no response to that because I can't think of any. So I force a laugh, but it comes out weird. It was a bad move. Hopefully. You alright? I nod furiously and swiftly change the subject. Have you seen Eric? Yeah, in passing. What's wrong? He gives me a 1 silver, then seems to make up his mind. Raiden clears his throat. Okay, well, I do have people to snoop on and work to do, contrary to popular belief. Oh, really? He rolls his eyes. So, sure, there's this tree on the outskirts of town. It used to have a whole neighborhood around it, but over the years, it's been ceded more or less to a fae or two. From one of his pockets, Raiden produces a piece of folded parchment. I take it and flip it open. A map? If you're to visit that place, maybe you'll see some faces who would really like to see that you're okay. A certain phase included. His voice sounds pointed, almost as sharp as his dagger's point, and if he's drawn on me right now. Oh yes, it's a little fire, but I don't mind escaping the castle's blooming shadow. And what will you be doing? Keeping an eye on things. Something like pensiveness flickers across Raiden's attention. He straightens a little and takes a half step back, like he wants for more space between us. So he can recover, so he has more room to compose himself? I don't have the heart to ask. He wouldn't have been wrong to fear, I think. So where the ominous thought truly comes from, I can't say. Guess we both make ourselves scarce then. Best plan I've heard all day. Oh, and Ehud, be careful. With that cheery goodbye, Raiden pulls his hood lower over his face and melts back into the crowd. Right. If you're romancing Raiden and Lucian on night, regardless of whether you ended up with Lucian or Raiden, this conversation is where you basically choose to pursue a poly route or not. Gosh, Raiden. Ugh. I do feel like I'm being watched leaving town. The incredible feeling fades as the city's buildings begin to recede behind me, however. Following the very clearly drawn map Raiden provided, it does lead to where it feels like an older part of Novus. And then I'm almost practically in the forest with lush green grass and trees' boughs bowing over my head. Boughs bowing. Clever. One tree in particular draws my eye, and a broad-shouldered man standing near it as well. Eric! Eric stiffens and turns. He's back in his usual attire by now, and for a moment, as I stride towards him, I can imagine the guarded annoyance sliding back over his face. It doesn't. His expression instead melts in obvious relief, in turn making it sinking into my bones. His arms are warm around me when we embrace. in turn making it seem... Okay, yeah, that's awkward. Eric's lips goes over my cheek before we part, and he kisses my temple. You're all right. He sounds slightly disbelieving, doubtful almost, then seems to shake himself. Of course you are. Masha ensured that I was. Eric blinks at me for a moment before he closes his eyes. His lips move to something. A prayer? His whole frame seems to relax. He rests a calloused hand on the back of my neck and glances at my shoulder. Can't quite see, but out of the corner of my eye, I spot a glimpse of blue. Masha did say one of her birds will keep watch over me, didn't she? Of course. I will thank her properly later, profusely. We'll both thank her later, together. Even if they did hold me off, at least I had the memory of your breakfast for company in the dungeon. Clearly seeing a goddess or two hasn't phased your sense of humor. I kiss him. That shuts him up. Yeah? Did that bounty exchange for anything worthwhile? Aside from having a widow cry on my shirt for a solid minute after I gave it to her, a decent sum. Your poor shirt. Did you take it off to let it dry? Eric presses his lips together and gives me a look, and when I'm unfazed, he chuckles. It's terrifying. What is? The old widow? Well, yes, but I meant this. He gently tilts my chin back, the senseless contact of his hand and my skin sending lightning down my spine, but the dark intensity of his gaze pins me in place. For years, it felt as though I was walking in a fog. At times, I wondered if the memory of the sun was real, if living was real. And now I've seen a glimpse of it again, just like that, because you're here. Is it truly that frightening? Only that I'm afraid I might lose sight of it again. I'm not going anywhere, Eric. Eric squeezes his eyes shut. He takes my hands, both of them, and presses them to his lips. What is it murmuring under his breath? Another prayer? A plea for me? I don't have it in my heart to ask him. Suddenly there is something lodged in my throat, too. So I let him hold me, and then I kiss him, and we sink into the grass together. We stay there for a long, long time. That's sweet. Using the servant's entrance to get back into the castle feels too sneaky, but it has the added benefit of sparing me from any wandering eyes. It's later in the day now, anyway. Most of the castle's probably at dinner, so maybe if I just quietly make my way to my room. There you are, Ehab. Well, fast covers that plan. Oh, all right then. How did I not hear her armor clanking? That's quite a feat, to be able to sneak in armor. I mean, that's a reason you have to roll with disadvantage if you're wearing certain kinds of armor in Dungeons and Dragons. She's looking at me funny. Am I under arrest? Livia shakes her head. Her brow is knit, her lips sit in a tight, firm line. She looks almost nervous. What? No, nothing like that. But I do come bearing a royal summons. Ah, so no arrest but a death sentence. Livia narrows her eyes, and I raise my hands in apology. The light-hearted moment doesn't last. Livia turns away from me, but I could tell from the tightness of her jaw that the dread I'm starting to feel is real. It'll be all right, Ehab. Her voice falters near the end, then picks up again. I will be there with you. I nod mutely. Livia is quiet for a moment, and I brace myself for some other bad news. There's concern on her face, not suspicion. I hear that the ambassador will be there as well. Maybe it's less to do with you and more to do with formally receiving visitors from our esteemed neighbor. Oh, you're right. Well, I hope you are. Me too. She looks me over, then bites her lip. It's urgent. What you're wearing will have to do. Come. There's no room for me to refuse. Nodding mutely, I let Livia lead me down an entirely different path in the castle, one I've never traveled before. Oh boy. Then we're there. Livia takes a deep breath. Whatever happens, she cuts herself off, shakes her head, then pushes open the door. At this moment, I only vaguely perceive the pillars, the marble court, the marble steps leading to the dais. All of my attention is immediately grabbed by those sitting in splendid thrones on that dais. Faces I don't know, but by their crowns can have no mistake about who they are. They smile, their eyes fixed on me, and I feel my heart turn to ice. Knight Ehud Kadir, how good of you to join us. Come forth and be welcome. As if beckoned, I approach. And then Queen Adora regards me, and every warm feeling I've been trying to cling to fades away with the single word that falls from her lips. Kneel. So, obviously we saw this last week, but I'm still going to give people a chance to admire the artwork and the design that went into these two. And that's the end of the chapter. So yeah, next week we will play the Nomad Route Chapter 5. We will see what happens with Olivia. I've been looking forward to that one because I love the dynamic of Olivia being with the Nomad. That's kind of funny. And then after that, after I finish the Nomad, all the current Errant Kingdom content, I doubt the rest will be released in 2 weeks. I will go ahead and play the Call Me Under demos, one each week. And then Sunday, I will continue with my playthrough of the When That Comes revamp. We're on chapter 8 there, and then the following Sunday will probably be chapter 9 and 10 together because it's rather short. But for now, we are done for the day, and I'm going to take a nap because I did not sleep well last night. I made a mistake, and I shouldn't have, and I paid for it. So I hope everyone has a good day whenever you watch this, and I will see you next time. Bye.